একবার দেখ তো পেজ গুলো চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে নাকি, মনে হচ্ছে ল্যাগ খাচ্ছে। নো, চেঞ্জ হচ্ছে না। Fuck. लिंक दे दे ग्रुप में। So, hi everyone. I would ask you to turn on your camera if you can, please. Let's make this interactive, and then we will start. Okay, so let's start. So, welcome everyone to a session on Intro to Design. I'm Anurag De, core member at ESL JU. So, without further wait, let's get started. So, first of all, what we will cover today. So, we will cover typography, palette, layout composition, and hierarchy. So, first of all, typography. Typography refers to the style or the appearance of text and the art of working with text. And it plays a crucial role in design affecting readability and aesthetics. So, we will look at different types of fonts and how they can be used effectively. So, these are some examples of typography, rather custom fonts. Now, we have a paragraph here, rather a poem, to show you the different types of font and the use of typography. So, as we can see here for the title, we have used Allegre Sans. For the body text, Aileron, and for the captions, Barlow Condensed works well. So, title font should help it stand out in the document from the rest of the body, and hence fancy fonts might be used as per your requirements, while the body should have easily readable font, and the captions are always preferred with some small condensed font as seen here. So that's it for typography. Now we will move on to colors, but before that, if anyone has any questions regarding typography, you may ask. You can unmute your mic and ask. Okay, I guess so. No questions for typography. So, Oindri, could you take over for colors?
Sure.
Yeah, audible and visible both.
Okay. So in the next section, we aim to cover colors and their use in designs. But as we can see, the colors haven't loaded yet. Now that the colors are loaded, let's discuss about how essential they are for conveying the mood and tone of our design. Basically, they have long been used even in pop culture and branding psychology to help how consumers interact with our brands. So basically, they are very useful for conveying the environment of the brand. Like the monochromes are used in modern UI for popular brands like Uber and Apple. And even some colors are like red are used to symbolize energetic feelings as shown in brands like Coca-Cola. Also, they are also aiming at invoking a sense of relatability among people. Like if we look around and look at some of our favorite fast food joints selling Chinese food, most of them have the same red, black, and yellow logos. This is not to not stand out and instead get more customers by kind of invoking people to relate to the brand. As we can see here, we have cool tones and warm tones. The cool tones include shades of blue, and the warm tones include shades of orange, red, and yellow. So the primary colors, it's something most of us are familiar with, which is the basic colors that are obtained normally and not by mixing any colors, while the secondary colors add more character to our designs and they're obtained by mixing the primary colors. So the next thing is most important part of the color palette portion, and which is to choose our color scheme wisely. We be choosing monochromes, analogous schemes, or complementary color schemes. If we talk about analogous color schemes, it includes those colors which come side by side on the color wheel, as we can see in our example here. And complementary colors occur opposite on the color wheel. But for most beginner designers, a more convenient way is to choose analogous color schemes because the colors appear side by side on the color wheel. So there is very little chance of the design going absolutely wrong. Like that's what I followed most of the time. So this is an example here of an UI that does use analogous color scheme with pink, purple, and blue scheme. And in addition to a color scheme, what draws our attention more here is the hierarchy. That is the font size and the typography, some of which has been discussed, some of which will be discussed. This is very essential for designing an infographic or poster because it must also appeal to our consumers' tastes. So this is the portion which covers hue, tint, and shade. So hue is basically the base color. A lot of the time while we are creating a design which uses different tones of the same color for like highlighting different moods, we may add a little bit more white to the color or a little bit more black to get darker and lighter shades of the original color. The primary need for this is to add more character to our design because like the same color can get very boring. So if we are creating a poster that's monochrome, maybe we can use light blue for the background, dark blue for the text, and an even darker shade for the captions. So like that. So this is a classic example of a design and the long exposure to which can make our eyes hurt. Like the blue text on this red background. It's very difficult to see and it's almost entirely not legible to us. But it's not like a blue and red combo is inherently bad. We can alter it by using a different tint or hue for these colors. Like this here, the blue has been made darker and the pink and the red has almost been turned pinkish. So the depth perception is not as off as in the previous design and the text is clearly legible. Also, we have changed the font to make the whole thing more appealing to our users. And this is where I would like to end the portion on colors. Thank you.
So thank you, Endri. Do you have any questions for the part of colors? You can unmute your mic or ask in the chat box, whichever you prefer. Okay, then we should move on. So Shubro was asking a question in the chat box that size of the text is also a priority. Yes, it is. We will explain it here in the part 3, hierarchy. So the formal definition of hierarchy stands is that it is a visual technique to help viewers navigate the presentation of the work. It attracts attention, holds interest, and conveys the message effectively. To better understand, let's look at an example. Here is the same poem that we saw during the typography part. You can see that the title is of a bigger font size, which attracts or draws the viewers in. And then the body with a smaller, comparatively smaller font size holds their intrigue, holds their attention, asks them to read the page thoroughly. And then the caption, which conveys the message, which is who wrote the poem here. So here is an example of such. Now, for even a better explanation of this, let's look at the next slide. If you try to read this slide, you will notice that first you will read the biggest font. Then as the size progresses, you move towards the next font one after another. And there are also some fonts which you may not read at all, which is due to the contrast of the small font size. So it is also important to notice that hierarchy is important and different font size are important, but it is also mandatory to maintain a minimum font size so that it's readable, or else the design would become useless. Here are some examples of real world posters that have been made, and hierarchy has played a great part in it. In the first poster on the left, if you see, we can first see the movie title and then a small description, and followed by we can maybe see the different cast names or whatever has been written in the font. And in the right side, there is an arts festival poster where we first see the name of the festival, followed by the dates, tickets, and all other captions that has been put within the poster. So,
Daga,
hmm,
we are still in the Symphony of Code slide. Did you change the slide to the posters?
oh, it didn't change. I'm sorry. Now it's visible.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Actually, this slide was also not visible, right? Was this visible?
No.
Okay, so let me reiterate it again. So, just as we said in hierarchy, hierarchy like determines where your eyes go first. So if we read this page, you will see that first you will notice the biggest font in the page, followed by decreasing font sizes. However, there is one example I showed here that font sizes should be big enough for the reader to read the font. There are some fonts that are not readable due to contrast as well, but also due to the size. So that should be something that should be kept in mind. And now the posters I talked about. So in here, as I was saying, the typography has hierarchy has been used very well. In the first left poster, first we see the name of the movie, the biggest font, followed by a description, the cast, etc., whatever is written in the poster. And in the right side also we can see the arts festival poster, where we first see the name of the festival, followed by the ticket booking dates, the event dates, and other necessary stuff. So that's all for hierarchy. If anyone has any questions in this part, you can go ahead. So I guess any questions? Then we will move to the next part. Okay, I guess no. So Yash, can you please take over for the next part?
So, am I visible and audible as well?
Yes, you're
So, hello.
visible and audible.
So, as we are heading towards the last part of session, that it is about layouts and composition. Imagine your design as a canvas. Layout is how you arrange the elements on that canvas, like the text, images, and button. It's about organization and how elements relate to each other and the overall space. A good layout is clear, balanced, and guides the viewer's eye throughout your design. So, and talking about the composition, Composition, on the other hand, is the art of arranging those elements in a visually pleasing way. So, so here we have five basic principles. What are these principles? These principles are followed everywhere. These principles include, the first one is proximity, the second one is white space, alignment, contrast, and the last one is repetition. So, talking about the first one, proximity. Imagine a party. People standing close together are likely having a conversation, right? So, in design, it's the same. Elements placed closer or together are perceived as related. We use proximity to organize information and guide the viewer's eye. A headline close to a subheading shows they are connected. Spacing elements further apart creates a sense of separation. So, by mastering proximity, you can create clear, well structured design that guides viewers and deliver your message effectively. Let's see the examples of proximity, how proximity is used. See, here are two images. We can clearly see how two different types of proximity is used. In the first one, the elements are arranged very closely and packedly. But in the next one, there are some spaces left between those elements. So it knows that the writer wants to convey that how he is trying to convey his message. So both has their own usage. Talking about the next part, it is alignment. So alignment. Imagine a room full of furniture. If everything is scattered, it feels chaotic, right? So alignment in design is similar. It's about arranging elements in a way that feels organized and visually pleasing. Let's see different examples of different types of alignments. So these are the mainly different types of alignments used. These are, you have heard before also, that left alignment, center alignment, justified alignment, and right alignment. As you can see, when you use left alignments, all text would be aligned towards the left of the screen. When you use center, it's mainly clearly understandable by looking at the images. And the in many times justify is also very much used. In justify, all spaces are spaced between the text so that it makes fill the box completely. And in the right alignment, you can see all the text are aligned towards the right side. Talking about the next part, it is white space. Now, it might sound strange to focus on empty space in design, but trust me, white space, also called negative space, is a powerful tool. Imagine a crowded room. It's hard to focus on anything. The same goes for design. Without white space, your design becomes cluttered, overwhelming, and hard to read. So it makes your design look minimal. As you can see in this image, that various at various places some white spaces are used, like you can see here empty spaces is given so that you can emphasize on the topic and the subheading. So you can clearly see there are some spaces between the two buttons as well. Talking about the next part, it is contrast, the secret weapon. Just like a superhero's costume needs contrasting colors to pop, your design needs contrast to grab attention and make a statement. Think of it like this. Imagine a room filled with whispering people. Now someone walks in and starts shouting. Who gets noticed? The loud voice, right? So contrast works the same way in design. So as you can see, there are two images where in the first one is with purple background, purple or magenta background with yellow main thing, and the next one is black background with the purple object. So what looks more effective? The first one looks more effective and more pleasing to see. So contrast in design is the difference between visual elements used to create emphasis and improves readability. As you can see in this image, it is an example where very high contrast is used. We can clearly differentiate between the dark parts and the light parts. So this is, I cannot say that this is a bad example, but this should be used where it is needed. We cannot use high contrast images at the place where we don't need these types of images. Talking about the last part, it is repetition. So in design, by repeating elements like color, shapes, patterns, or even fonts, we create unity and rhythm in our design. Think of a company logo. Often logos are repeated elements to create a memorable and recognizable brand identity. Repetition does not have to be boring. You can use variations of an element like size, color to keep things interesting. As you can see, there are two examples. In the first one, you can see same types of elements are used different times. It makes it look more readable and more pleasant to see. But in the next one, you can see that different types of elements are used. So what looks more attractive and more pleasant to see? Obviously, the first one, brands often use representation to repetition to create a brand image. So that was all for my part. If you guys have any question, you can please ask. I think you have no questions. So over
What
to
is the
Anurag
use
Bhaiya.
case of justify alignment? See, Shubhro, if you have read newspapers, you will see justify alignment is being used a lot. So in there, to give a more like proper aligned look to the whole newspaper, the different paragraphs that have been used, we use the justify alignment. And the space between words, although they look bad, but due to the font size and the huge amount of text, they are not exactly the first thing we see. Rather, the alignment is more pleasing to see. So that's one use case you can think about in real life. Okay, yes, can you stop your
Yes, yes,
presentation?
yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to a last extra bits. Okay, so basically, um, the create different sections without using external. You can say that it creates a like a box like effect. It gives a box like effect to the text, is like with proper four-sided borders. After using justify alignment, the paragraph looks like that. So that's the main use case. Okay, so the next part, some extra bits that we have added. Okay, so as you can see in this slide that comp sorry complex designs aren't always preferred. Simple designs are often more effective and easier to understand. So, depending on the case, you have use complex or simple designs, but simple designs are used mostly. So, let's look at some examples to illustrate our point. So, here is a basic presentation that is created by a company. In here, you can see there is not too much of cluttering, no use of very high graphics or images at all. It's mainly composed of text and a few image elements, but it looks simple when looked at first. So this is what we were talking about. So in here also you can see the agenda page where they show the contents of the presentation. That is also written down in a very simple manner so that people can read through comfortably without getting confused. And also it's kept minimalistic without very confusing elements. And similarly you can see this here that images although used can be still the slide can be kept minimal and simple. That's all for from our side. And although you think graphic design is your passion, while there is something you should remember, that while there is no formula that will produce a banger for design 100% of the times, there are certain obvious mistakes we should steer clear of, which we discussed today in our whole presentation of color contrast, proximity, text hierarchy, and all that.
Yeah, latest slide is not coming up. It's still the previous one.
Okay, now it's there.
Ha ha.
Ah, So just as I said, there is no formula that will produce a great design 100% of the time. However, there are certain obvious mistakes we should steer clear of, which we discussed in the previous slides about contrast or hierarchy and all that things. Okay. So for all those at slides are changing. Then now it's changed. So for all those who attended today's session, there are some design resources that you can notice here that would help you get started in the field of design if you want to start. Like I have mentioned under here, photos. For that you can use Unsplash, Pixels, Pixabay, and illustrations, icons. And for inspiration, of course, if you have heard of Pinterest, if not Behance and Dribble, there are some sites which you can visit to get design inspiration, design your next project. So that's all from our side. So thank you. It was presented by me, Anurag, Ori Chatterjee, and Yashraj Singh. That is the end of the presentation. And now, if you have any questions that you couldn't ask previously, you can go on and ask. We will answer this patiently. You can switch on your mics, no issues.
Yeah,
Ah,
that I have one question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose I have seen some rebranding of companies
Hmm.
like Coca-Cola or Pepsi are being rebranded
Mm-hmm.
and has been evolutionized their logo and their color schemes and palettes over
Mm-hmm.
time, and they will continue doing it. And the point is, people are given such projects in graphic designing that they are asked to rebrand the, do the rebranding of the logo or the design scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we basically get started? From which point do we start thinking the approach?
So you are asking, so the approach for redesigning, right?
Yeah,
See, redesigning projects that have been carried out, like you mentioned, Coca-Cola. If you watch football, you have noticed that many clubs have also rebranded their logos, like Juventus and Inter Milan are some famous examples, right?
yeah. Real Madrid also has evolved the logo over time.
Huh.
So, yeah.
So the thing is like there is something called design aesthetics that change over time, right? So previously there was the Italian clubs used to have one that ovals type of logo. So that used to be the trend. So people are following trends, and the oval logo was like identity of the Italian clubs. But now they want to expand their identity to the global market, so they need to have some sort of idea of what is being preferred in the global market. So first thing I would say, if you want to start the approach, you need to study the market. You generally redesign for a brand, so you have to see what market they're trying to appeal to, and what design aesthetics are currently running in the market. So that is the first thing. And
But
this. Mhm.
But then there is another one, that AC Milan. You have
Mhm.
seen that they have preferred the traditional logo over time. They
Mhm.
don't really care what is in the market. So it basically distinguishes them from the other teams.
Huh,
And it
so
is a,
that's all dependent on your client, because if your client wants, you have to redesign, but if they don't, they don't. Look, Inter or Juventus are two teams that didn't need to change their logo, but they did because they thought that it might increase the market reach. It might have. I have not seen the exact data, but you see somewhere right there. So that's the thing. And but talking on the approach, after seeing all the trends and all, you should think about one thing, that the brand identity shouldn't dissolve completely. There should be some things that should remain from the previous logos that still like are an identification marks. Like Inter, although they have changed their logo, they have tried to keep their colors as close as possible. So that should be the second thing you should consider while redesigning a logo. And then after that, the normal design process is like chalking out what are the logo design could be, what should be any color scheme changes, any font changes in the websites or the company logo or something that follows like every other design that exists. So I would say that's the basics.
thank you, Dada. Like
Mm.
the chat is saying something over there.
I'm reading that. There is a outcry. See, they what the people want, and the you leads and Juventus and all, there is an outcry from the supporters, right? But their motive was to reach new supporters and to create a global identity. I personally didn't understand any of that, what global identity they created. But of course the supporters won't like it, because any brand, the brand identity term is there because any logo, brand, typography is their identity. People identify that brand with the previous particular thing that was there. So I agree with that, but they have
Now,
changed.
maybe like Juventus had tried remodeling or redefining their logo and lost some of their old supporters.
Hmm.
They couldn't revive them
Ha.
later on. So this is
This
anyway kind of
like a very
on.
sensitive topic. Like there are some things that people unanimously agree. If you have visited the Craigslist website, that's like very bad. I don't know if they've remodeled in the recent days or years. I don't know, but used to be very bad. So things like that, if they change, people might accept. But things which are already good and people are resonating with it, if you change it, it's a very sensitive issue. So people might have an outcry. It depends on the public totally.
Okay, Dada.
Hmm.
Thank you very much.
Hmm. Sure, bro. People do prefer intricate and ornate designs, but higher up of the companies think that oversimplification should like increase their outreach. That's what their thinking process might be. So that's what I can say about that. And any other questions? Okay, I guess there are no more questions. So thank you everyone for attending the session. However, wait a few minutes. We are sharing a feedback form. I would expect everyone to fill up that so that we can improve on our further sessions. Just a minute. I'm sharing it in the chat.
So, by the way, can we get the PPT?
Okay, I will share it then.
Thank you very
I will share
much.
it later. Okay.
Okay.
Please fill up the forms and then you can leave. I guess everyone has noticed the form link, so I guess we can end the meet. They have already started filling up the form.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Piyush, end the meet.